So far we have completed 5 philosophies, and the sixth one is yoga, which is the main uh, discussion that we are going to have in all the forthcoming classes. And I was struggling for the whole week about uh, what to choose, because again, to complete many uh, of the Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita, how much we can try to put maximum into the 6 forthcoming classes. And these 2 big volumes of work, Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra, was making this difficult, because if we only take Bhagavad Gita, then it has 18 chapters, and it's really unfair to finish it in one class. So anyway, what I have done is not to go by the verse by verse, but I am trying to see the things from a broader picture. What is the uh, essence, the essential message that the Bhagavad Gita is giving, or the Yoga Sutras are giving. So I would again look at these both texts from this perspective, that if I read Bhagavad Gita, then what exactly it gives me? What does it talk about? And as our course is about uh, bridging this gap between philosophy and psychology, so then I have also looked at from the psychological point of view, from a psychologist's point of view. But I would like to make a few things clear in order to understand this subject, whether really Bhagavad Gita is psychology or Yoga Sutra is psychology. And if it is, um, then what is the special characteristic of the psychology of Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra, and how it differs from the modern psychology? So we start from this point, because that's where we are building upon, that the entire yogic literature is something to do with the human mind, human behavior, and the transcendental aspect of the self. These are so within the person, what is happening? What is the relationship of this person with the, uh, you can say, God, or the absolute truth, or cosmic consciousness, universal consciousness, and how we can bring these teachings into day-to-day living. Because when we are looking at all these things, reading from the book, they may sound very difficult to apply into daily life. So that's where again we will focus, that how can we bring that into our behavior, and what is the essence of that teaching uh, in the Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita. So from the psychology point of what is psychology, and when I look at the word in Hindi or Sanskrit, the what is psychology? Psychology is the science or of mind and behavior. In a very, we are talking in a very layman's understanding, what exactly is psychology? So we call it Mano Vigyan. Man means mind, Vigyan means, you can say, science. So in a way, we can say that the psychology is a study of the human mind, basically behavior. But then question is, what is mind? So in this context, trying to simplify the things, and again I say that the mind is nothing but a kind of a storehouse of thoughts, experiences, memories, emotions, desires. Mostly it is related to past. In mind, there is nothing in the present, but it's mainly about the past. So if we say the psychology, in which context this study is happening, so it is a kind of arrangement and organization of what is there in the mind, all these experiences, all the thoughts, emotions, memories, desires, perceptions, various things are there in it, to study them and organize in an organized manner. That subject or that area of study can be called as Mano Vigyan. Now, when we try to understand this modern psychology, and when we try to see what is inside the mind, then largely what I found, or what we can say, is that mind is having lots of garbage inside. Truly speaking, what we have inside this mind, you can say everything that is there in the mind is lots of dead things which are no more useful, lots of dead things that they stink, like the memories, like all those things that are making you miserable, painful, suffering, causing number of problems. Of course, there is another aspect of the mind which is uh, very useful for the day-to-day living point of view. We will also talk about it. But right now, what I am saying is that what we have in mind is the conditioned behaviors, thoughts. Interestingly, that is not even yours. What we have in mind is actually given by somebody else or by the society. Whatever we get, whatever the thoughts that we are having inside our mind is coming from the family, mainly the parents, siblings, extended family. All those memories, thoughts, behaviors, attitudes, they are all given to us by them. Then the school, then your friend circle, peers, then your society. If I say that I want to organize all that, then this very first question is questionable. What will you do with by organizing this garbage inside your head? If you organize something and if it is garbage, then that organization is not so helpful. Yes, from the processing point of view, to those who are collecting the garbage, and then for them it is good if you organize it. But as you are, suppose you are cooking something in the kitchen, and all that garbage means Ultimately, what you will do with this? You organize and keep it? No. You may organize for the sake of those who throw it, but then you don't keep it. It means you throw it. Ultimately, you have to throw it. Ultimately, you have to clean the garbage. All kinds of garbage. No, any kind of garbage is not to be kept inside you. So, from this point of view, when I looked at Bhagavad Gita, whether there is psychology in Bhagavad Gita, what psychology Bhagavad Gita is talking about, then it doesn't make any sense, because Bhagavad Gita is not about psychology in this sense. Bhagavad Gita is not throwing another garbage in your head and then saying that organize it. So Bhagavad Gita Yoga Sutra is not organizing of the existing garbage, but these texts are first helping us to clean or empty what we have inside. This is one of the reasons that one of the major differences between the yogic methodologies of mental hygiene and the psychotherapies. So basically, when we look at all this concept, then definitely these yogic modalities are the ways we can have this mental hygiene. And hygiene means here you are undergoing a process of purification, cleansing. So if at all these texts of Bhagavad Gita or Yoga Sutra, they help us not by organizing the garbage, but cleaning it, removing it, throwing it away, dumping it. So the psychology that we will try to see in the Yoga Sutras is not that psychology which is what the psychotherapists do. So what Freud has talked about, he has talked about the conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious mind, and he's saying that all that behavior that we are performing is guided by that unconscious mind. Mainly, it is the energy of libido which is directing your behavior. However, later on, this theory was condemned by his own uh, students or disciples. But in this sense itself, we can clarify from the beginning that when we are talking about the psychology, then of the yoga and Bhagavad Gita, then this psychology is not in any way close to the psychology that is given in this, which has developed recently or in the modern times. The kind of psychology that they are, actually this cannot be even called psychology, but this is paravidya, that this transcendental knowledge that the Bhagavad Gita or Yoga Sutra is imparting, they are for transforming our mind. Or basically, now if I say in more easy words, then whatever the amount of garbage that we have, to make it zero is the work of Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra. In a way, you can see what is yoga. Yoga is that process of removing all that uh, garbage that is placed in that storehouse. So it is making the mind empty of the thoughts. It is not organization of the thoughts. Please, this is where the whole difference is. Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, then Patanjali says Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, means total cessation of the mental modifications or mental fluctuations is yoga. It is not organization of the chitta vrittis is yoga. Make it clear from the beginning. It's a very vast difference and completely different point of view here. Patanjali defines yoga as total cessation of the mental activity. Bhagavad Gita does the same thing. Not organization of the mental activity. But modern psychology is organization of the mental activity. So that they say that whatever you have inside, organize it nicely, place it into the nice packings and present it and live your life in this way. Mostly all these self-help books, they have taught us positive thinking. So basically positive thinking is that covering in that very nice packaging of positive thinking, you organize everything. All the tension, be positive. So you have a baggage or a package, all the tension, whenever the tension comes, put that into that packaging of positive thinking. That's dangerous. Dangerous because one day, somehow, if you get to see that material which is kept into the box of or package of positive thinking, it is stinking. There are so many insects, and perhaps they crawl. Sometimes they find a hole from that place of that packing, and they make a mess into your whole house, and you don't know where does they come from. That's the whole irony of this, because you thought this positive thinking box is beautiful and you have done all the nice work on it to make it look beautiful, but all these insects, if you remember, it will make you will feel even much worse when you look at the, do you know the movie The Mummy? And from that mummy, that these insects will go inside the body and then they will move inside the head and they will try to come out of your skin. How stinky and how disgusting does it feel? This is exactly what happens when we are having this package of positive thinking. All the positive thinkers are the most negative thinkers ever, because they are not looking at the things in its right perspective or as it is or in its truth. So Bhagavad Gita Yoga Sutra does not provide any positive thinking packing to that stinky garbage. It does not provide any organization to it. It rather tells you that this is completely nonsense to keep it, and you have to get rid of it somehow. And you all have experienced, because you are experienced practitioners, that when you start to practice yoga, you start to purge that all the nonsense from inside. It is not necessary to always put that vomiting that you have placed in front and then you see, okay, let me analyze what does this vomiting that I have done contains. Do you do that? You never. Because you have already vomited. It means it's a cleaning, let it go. You don't put it in a box and then say, okay, let me study it. What is that nonsense here? Completely useless from this perspective. I have heard a horrible case. I don't know if I told you ever. And this is where the whole mental problems and how they exist in this world are. You want to hear it? It's really, really disgusting. But about this vomiting, there was one girl. Her mother had some mental illness, and she used to beat her when she was very young. Beat her after dinner until she vomits, and she will ask her to put it into the plate and eat it again. Positive thinkers do this. So I heard this, and it's a true thing. It really, then you can see what is happening. What happens with these all the. So the subject matter of Yoga Sutra and Bhagavad Gita is entirely different than organization of the nonsense. So the practice of asana itself is cleansing. So much emphasis is given on the cleansing in yoga. All kinds of cleansing. All the time they are talking about purification. What purification are they talking about? Or at all levels, when it comes to the kriyas, your sutraneti, jalneti, what is this? That you do this cleaning diligently and get rid of very, very gross impurity, and in this way you get subtler into it. In the yoga sutra, 8 limbs of yoga, shaucha, cleanliness, in the niyamas section is a very, very important step. If you read those verses about those sutras on cleanliness, they have spent 2-3 sutras on it, not on other, like ahimsa. They just say 2 sentences. Ahimsa pratisthayam vairagya, finished. But cleanliness is much deeper. In yogas, in Hatha Yoga Pradipka, in all the Hatha Yogic texts, so much cleaning. So, coming back to the point that yoga is a process of emptying, removing of all the garbage, all that which is undesirable, all that which is useless, and simply dumping it. That's why at some places Patanjali seems like he has not explained things much, because he said what to explain about. It doesn't make any sense of explaining because it has to be removed. So there are many things, especially vrittis, when Patanjali talks, he talks a very, very crude explanation of 5 vrittis, the 5 mental modifications. The reason is this itself, that Patanjali does not want to spend much time on that, because he is much more considerate about the other aspects of it, how exactly to work. What is the process of emptying? What is the way where we can reach to that complete cessation of the mental activity? And since it is not a one-time process, and it can be also at the end, but it's a daily behavior, it's a daily practice. of cleansing, because daily absorption of the garbage happens until you learn to make very good filters. And these filters are given in Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra. There are many, many big filters that they have uh, given. So when we talk today, then some of the filters I will mention in the Bhagavad Gita, very helpful filters from the beginning, when you have given those the methodology to make those filters for yourself, then a lot of nonsense will fall by itself. It will not even enter. And if you enter, then you have further filters to remove that. So you does not reach to a state where you stink so much that these all the insects will come out from your head and you start shouting, and then you start to show this behavior, like the behavior so many people do of killing and shooting. What is that? The rage that these people show up, just take the gun and then kill innocent people on the street or shopping mall or somewhere on the road. What is that? Means that the tension has this tension is so intense that this person loses all the filter. There are no filters there. He takes the gun and kills anyone. No filter. This is because there is no filter. You don't know what are you doing. And it's not in this person's conscience that he is able to control that. So these all the principles, all these sentences that we see in Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra, if they are taught from the childhood, they can really bring real mature adults. Unfortunately, we might find mature children, but mature adults difficult to find. Look at these behaviors, very immature behavior is shown by a lot of adults that they may be of the age of 50 or 60, even more than that, up to the age of 70. Means does not matter. The age does not matter here. You can be completely nonsense in your behavior, having no filters, no idea how to. So one reason which I was pondering the other time is, why at all these yoga teachers and all these gurus, why they are so much regarded, why they are, they are kind of celebrities now, like me. If we teach children these small things from the beginning, the large number of psychotherapists, psychiatrists will lose their jobs because there will be no problem to really, they will be required in that number, because we don't have that somehow in our education. There's a big sad part of our education system, no matter where, no matter how great education system you may have. Maybe in the best is the Finland or all those countries where you have very good refined educational system, not necessarily have these filters. Yeah, so if the new generation we want to protect, then the seed of these fundamental laws of nature needs to be given, not as a force, as the parents has done, your parents has done by taking you to the church, like dragging literally on your Sundays, and you don't want to go. And then when you grew up, And then you said, okay, now I am 18 and you cannot tell me or you cannot force me, I will report to the police. But in a very, in because the children has the questions about life, and we can, at the right time, when they are in this receptive mode, first, the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita has something beautiful that we can share with the children when we are talking. Because when they always ask the question about death, they always ask the question about uh, what happens after somebody die. And if we have that concept given to them from the beginning, and the very first thought that needs to be given, perhaps we have done in Vedanta course or other classes, sorry, this reminder, or not reminder, but this truth that what you actually are, that I am nothing but the spark of the divinity. I am nothing but expression of that unlimited Brahman, and I am born as this pure being, come to this earth, and I'm supposed to reach to my divinity into my awareness, living into this world, because this world gave me all the opportunities to practice, but keeping that truth inside, that I am limitless, I am infinite, I am a spark of divinity. Because this thought, you remember the story of the line last time we had in Vedanta class. If we are giving this idea from the very childhood to the children that you are stupid, you have you have come here with these shortcomings, whether it is physical, that you look like this, your skin, your uh, all the attributes physically, or whatever the capacities that you come with mind, or your intellect, or your emotions. So remembering that story of the lion, that the calf who was brought up by the herd of the sheep and behaved like a sheep. This idea from the beginning into the child's mind needs to be given, that you are complete. You are not limited. Because in that effort to be limitless or not limited, and then trying to prove, all the problems arise from there. So fear, insecurity, anger, all these emotions will arise from here. All that tendency of self sabotage or trying to project yourself more than what you are, equally it is a problem. Teaching the child that you are this expression of divinity and not more or less than anyone else, but you are limitless in that sense. Then the superiority complex or inferiority complexes will not be there. This is a big filter that we need to set up. And if we want to heal with any mental problems, then we have to again work on this healing first, that I am limited. I am this body. And whenever we go into the self-doubt regarding all these things, we have to go to this reminder that who am I? I'll show you those verses. It will make more sense then. That I am continuation of the unmanifested energy which has come into the manifestation stage in this body, in the form of this body in the manifestation state, and I'll go back to this unmanifested form again. It means that I exist here before, I existed here before, I am existing here now, and I will exist after that. So this sense of limit is removed. When the children are given this understanding from the beginning that you are unlimited and you are here in continuation of this life energy, which shows up into this form into the middle, and it will go back to the unmanifested state, which is death. So life, death is nothing but these two junctions of the where this unmanifested energy has come into the manifested state, and then no surprise, from this from this manifested state it will go again into the unmanifested. The moment we have this broader view to see the things, the one of the major cause of the psychological issues that people are facing is this fear of death. It's finished, because death is no more a limit. Number of young adults are having this issue with them, that what happens after my parents die, especially if they don't have a partner, or if they don't have a, they may have a partner but just for the sake of like they are trying to have a contract for some time, but they don't have the sense of trust in that relationship, so much insecurity in that relationship, and they try to hold the person. The huge dynamics of the mental problems will arise from here, because if what happens after my parents die, or if they are getting old and if they are sick, it causes huge stress on them. And if I have my family, if I go into my life, what will happen to them? So much worry, so much fear, so much insecurity, so much sense of loneliness, which causes number of psychological problems will arise from this point on. So in the Bhagavad Gita, when we are talking, then all these fundamental laws of nature are given. They are not organization of your garbage, but they are the fundamental laws, facts of life. You may not be able to understand it. Even the child may not be able to understand that. So, in this sense, when we are saying Bhagavad Gita or the psychology, it is not psychology, is something bigger than that. It is teaching, or not teaching in the form of some kind of imposition, but from the life experiences itself, those moments will arise when these questions will be given to you by the life itself, and then we teach, we guide, or we learn by our own experience. Not necessarily you know everything from the childhood, but from any point of time you wake up to this truth, you start, and that's another beauty in it. Okay, what about me? I'm already 60, and you are talking that these things should be given to a child. What about me? Of course, you can do it from right here and now. to start looking into these facts of life and imbibing all those experiences, teachings into your behavior. And from here, how much you will be able to do, because you are not again in this insecurity. Oh, what happens if I die? If you die, it's okay, because you are not going to finish. You are in continuation of this divine energy. So there is no sense of that restlessness or the tension inside you. So basically, these all the things that are not yours, it is the mind which is kind of dumping station to all the people around. People come and they dump something inside the head. We need to be cautious from here also. Very interesting thing that we are, if somebody comes and throws garbage in your house, what will you do? You will be extremely angry with this person, and not only angry, you might take your gun and shoot this person out. How dare you put the garbage in my house? And you can make a huge thing out of that. But what if somebody comes and dumps the garbage in your head? We love it. It's so pleasant, so beautiful. Oh, somebody who does this is your most intimate friend, because he can throw intimate nonsense into your head. And you love that. Oh, today you have come whole night, keep throwing the garbage on each other. And we are so much eager to throw the garbage on each other that we don't listen to each other properly. We just wait. Or you finished your part of throwing, before you are waiting. Okay, now this person is going to finish. And before he start throwing another nonsense, I start to throw bigger than that. This is a competition. This competition is happening between this group of the people who are sitting on the dinner tables and friends, and so beautiful competition. They will reach to this state where, oh my god, he's not even giving the space for me to throw something out. And you will say, I have a, if you talk to somebody, oh, my life has this problem and that friend is so bad, you say, no, your friend is not that bad, mine is even worse than you. So we are in constant competition to throw the garbage. So that's where, again, psychologists say, okay, you have been thrown up so much garbage inside, okay, let's arrange it. No, here we don't do this. First of all, we make the filters. Whenever garbage is thrown up, you know when to stop this. And you have a way, okay, if somebody feels good by doing that, okay, you do it, but you just don't multiply it. But the tendency is, when we are living in that ignorance, that stupidity, that we love it and we multiply it, and then we get exhausted of it, and then we feel miserable, and then the vicious cycle continues. And to get better, what we do? Throw more garbage. This is what happens when people meet together and they want to feel better. Then, okay, then, oh, his life is more problematic than mine is better. Inside, and then you feel okay. I'm okay then. So this is not a healthy way of living. The healthy way of living is where I realize what is nonsense, what is this stupidity happening, and you can stop that. Or you do not multiply on that. So these all the principles, they are for the sake of explaining to us or these are the laws of nature that has been there forever. And all the religions, all the spiritual traditions. Now remember, interesting thing will happen here. What kind of organization will happen? Now suppose when Buddha has cleaned not only the garbage of this life, but Buddha was enlightened when he has gone to many past lives and he cleaned all that karmic bondages that he had, and then he is free. And then he spoke so many things. Where does it come from? Please understand, if you clean your mind, it does not mean that you will be dumb. You will not be dumb. Actually, when you have cleaned completely, you have cleaned everything what is not yours, then you will be able to connect to that source. From there, when Buddha spoke that I am not teaching anything, but whenever people come with so much compassion, he teaches people so many. He is not teaching, but it happens through him. Where does he learn all those things? Nowhere. Because you cleaned everything and you can connect to the source. So these thoughts that Buddha is having, they are no more, they are like a flow, like in a river. The river is flowing. It keeps flowing. You come in it, okay, you need water, drink water, river continues and you leave from here. Means that all the thoughts that it does not, when it happens, it's not like you will become dumb and you will not, when you are empty of the thoughts, and then not in that sense. When you have emptied the nonsense, then you are connected to your conscience, your viveka, and from there you just put the light on something. Okay, something you need thoughts about this, and you just have a glance on it and the thoughts come up, original ones, and then you don't get trapped into those thoughts. The whole problem is not thoughts. Again, the problem is that we get trapped into it, depending on the nature of that thought. As I said, this mind is like this dumping ground, but it is also a source. It's a medium through which we can have these original thoughts coming from that source, which makes the life much easier, livable in a loving manner. And for that, we need to empty. For that, we need to clean up the garbage. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, when we look at the story, like again, I don't want to take time on the story, but you already know the context of Bhagavad Gita, that these two parties are in the middle of the battleground, ready to fight, where Arjuna has that inquiry within him, because he is a seeker. So many people, why this does not happen to others? Because Arjuna was seeker. So the question came to him, many things came to him, and then he wanted to get the answers of that. So when we see this first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in the first chapter, when I try to look and understand what exactly it is talking about, it is about whenever life throws challenges, whenever we are supposed to be following our dharma, swadharma, your dharma, life gives those many situations. In that situation, when you are supposed to take the responsibility, your duty, then inside us, one strategy that we have is to escape. Because whenever this conflict of dharma and adharma arises, it makes us very uncomfortable. That's why the situation of Arjuna in this first chapter, when he is explaining, and all the symptoms that we can see, these symptoms are of stress. What are the symptoms of stress? Whenever we are in a stressful situation, the symptoms are like this. The symptoms are, "O Krishna, seeing all my friends and relatives assembled for the battle makes my limbs quiver and my mouth dry. My whole body is shivering. My hairs are standing on end. My bow is slipping from my hands and my skin is burning. I am unable to maintain my composure and my mind is reeling. Oh Krishna, I can see only misfortune ahead." And he is very logical now. When we are stressful, we are wise. And then he is saying, I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman, my family, and I have no desire. And then you feel that sense of vairagya, that sense of non-attachment for the victory, for the kingdom, or happiness in these things. Isn't it? This is exactly what happens when we are uh, under conflict, severe conflict, not for the small things, but something intense. When it comes the conflicts between your duty, your dharma, and then adharma, very powerful. Both of the ends are very powerful, and they have the consequences, whatever the way you take up. Perhaps Arjuna is one of the recorded example of stress, and Krishna is the counselor who is helping Arjuna to understand the situation and doing his counseling. And in this whole first chapter, Arjuna is talking, Krishna is listening. Another gesture of counselor, that you listen carefully. Listen everything. So he is very wise. He sounds very wise in this when he's saying that I don't see any good. If I kill my family man, then how this is going to be good for me? It's rather I leave this kingdom and I become a renunciate. I don't want any wisdom, any wealth, nothing. I want nothing. What is behind all that? So one thing that is there is attachment. Attachment over duty. fear. So fear and attachment, if they are present in this conflicting situation, it will result into many consequences in your body mind complex, and it will fuel a huge range of emotions. In all that situation, Arjuna is emotionally charged. All that situation for Arjuna is not intellectual. In his body, because he's saying my skin is burning, I have sweat in my hands, my gandhi, my bow is slipping. It means the changes that happen in that stressful situation when your dharma and adharma are on conflict, physiological changes will happen. This is the power of emotions. And until we resolve this emotional state, we cannot proceed further. Now, I'm just taking a different direction, more physiological one here. That in the conflict, so this is where the whole idea of Bhagavad Gita is, that it will, the stress, the conflict will go and influence your physiology, your mind, your sense of ego, and yourself. But in that whole thing, Arjuna has forgotten something. And he's forgotten that, and he has got attached with this, all the physiological responses that are happening. And he is completely lost into the power of the glandular secretions in the body. Basically, what is happening now in his body is nothing but a huge rush of secretions in his all the glands in the body, which is disturbing his nervous activity. The meaning is that if we look at the Bhagavad Gita, this Bhagavad Gita is through this teaching us through this story that in these stressful situation, do not ignore your physiological changes. If you notice that, from there you can learn so many things. Normally what will happen, that all the physiological changes that will happen, that the fuel of emotion, the charge of emotions, and these emotions will take all the power and you will forget who you are, and from there all the multiplication will happen, and that will make a huge consequences into the life. Now understand what is happening, that you are this spark of divine and all that, and in that stressful situation, this is something very higher, and in this stressful conflicting situation, your physiology is so powerful that you lose all the connections from here. You have no idea at that time you are the limitless Brahman. You said, go to hell right now, let me deal with this person. I am not Brahman. Forget me, I am not yoga teacher and I am nobody. I want to hate this person right now. You completely forget all the philosophy of Vedanta and Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra. Because your physiology is powerful. This is where one thing that perhaps Patanjali has focused upon, and he has, if he has given the yamas and niyamas in the beginning of the yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, this is the purpose, to work with the emotions, because they are so powerful that you will lose the contact with your higher self, and this instinctive lower self will be dominating your intellect. So in the yogic system, when I looked at the Bhagavad Gita and most of the chapters, when I try to look, and then I found all the time they talk about the senses, all the time they talk about these emotions, that they are the gates to the hell. If we are living in the hell, then this is the doorway. The emotions are the doorways to the hell. Because this is where we multiply on that. This is where we hold on to those emotions, and from there we get the power to fight and to continue to live into jealousy, anger, and we want to maintain that. People say that if you lose emotions, then you are not human being. They will say if you don't have emotions, then you are not human being. This is true. A stone will not have these emotions. If you paint red on it and it says, no, I like the, the, the yellow color, why are you painting me like this? He's not interested. Okay, you paint me red or whatever, I don't care. But you will not allow that to happen, because you are having emotions. But the whole fact is this: it is not saying that you don't have emotions. They are saying, are these emotions worthy of guiding your conscience, your viveka, your intellect, or not? Who should be the guiding factor? Emotions or intellect? Emotions or the self? That's where we forget. That's where the problem is, because we get attached to these emotions because they give fuel to interact to the world, to get the power from there, and we get overwhelmed by them. So much overwhelmed that we can't see anything, not even what is in front of the eyes also. If I'm so much covered with the layers of these emotions, then I will not be even able to see the small things or the very facts of life in front of us, because I'm deluded. This is exactly what delusion is. I'm deluded by these emotions. So here, emotions itself are not good or bad, but the whole thing is that are these emotions are the guiding factor? So one of the reminder, as you have all, nobody is teenager here, but if you look at the teenagers, who is guiding their life? Nothing but these emotions only. They are so powerful. For you, when you look at that teenager and he's doing stupid things, and then he's, oh my God, this boy, this girl is wasting his time, energy, and you feel so sad. But can you help? No. But for that teenager, what is happening? That emotional charge is everything, and everything else behind that is immaterial. But for you, when you have gone, when you have crossed, and interestingly, you have not done much different than your own kids. If you have the kids and they are teenagers, not much difference. You were as stupid as them, and you worry about them. Oh, what will happen to their life? Hey, you survived, and you are having good life. They are your kids. They will also have good life. Not to worry, but yes. if we have some understanding that knowing, if I have a methodology, a technology to locate and to look within what is happening here, what the hell is this body doing and these emotions doing inside me, rather than escaping. So this is one thing that will drive us crazy, is escape. So this is exactly what Arjuna is doing. Then he says, I don't see any good in fighting here. It's better not to lose this war and give this whole kingdom and I get renunciation. He is looking for an easy exit. Please remember, there's no easy exits. You already know it from your own experiences. Most of you are having all those experiences when you have chosen the easy exits and you found that you are in the another place where you have to choose again easy exit. One day you have to take this lesson and face it, and there is no easy exit, right? So if we want to get some message, what the message is there in Bhagavad Gita, then this is the message. There's no easy exit, and it is as difficult as you come out of it or you fight with your own family. Sometimes the people say, okay, how you are justifying the violence and all that, and there is another view to it, that this whole war has not happened externally, but it is internal war which is happening in them. We don't go into this controversy because anyway we are suffering in this, whether it happened before in reality or it is happening into our minds. If you feel good with this, that okay, it is happening, yes, this is a war field, and this war is happening all the time with every individual within. And every time when this war happens within, we look for an easy exit, or we are completely overwhelmed by the emotions, then something is not right from the yogic perspective. Because when you have an easy exit, you have the imprints of those things, and you continue to, these all the things will start to, get again, what do you call it? Inside your body, they start to stink and they continue to ferment. I don't know the right word for it. Something like that. Do you know what to say?
Putrefactus, like it's really
That's like maybe
too much.
Decompose.
This is all the garbage, and then you keep it inside, and then it starts to putrefy, something like that.
Decompose.
Decompose. Yeah, that's better. Thank you. And it starts decomposing, and then it starts to grow new things from it, right? So awareness. This is where Krishna comes into this play, and he says, Arjuna, either way, if you fight and you die, you are still worthy of respect. And even if you win and you establish dharma, then your glory will be there forever. And Arjuna, Krishna has shown him many different perspectives to this, that what mistake he's making. And one of the interesting learning that comes from the this chapter, second chapter, where the whole teaching of Bhagavad Gita begins, which is mind-blowing in itself. He says in the chapter 2, verse number 11, and I love this because whenever we are doing this nonsense, we go back to this. Krishna says, you have spoken the wise words and lamented for those who do not deserve lamentation. The learned lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Means if I am grieving, this is where we are wasting our time in these emotions. In these emotions, what actually happening inside is we are grieving. If you grieve for those who have died or for those who are alive is meaningless, because if you are grieving for the dead because it's gone already, what to grieve about, what to lament upon? This is where our subjective imposition of various values, not values but nonsense to the truth. If we take any practical example from the life, when we are in this process of grieving, we grieve to total nonsense and absolute nonsense things, which you yourself can realize after some time. Oh, I was so stupid at that time. How do you realize after some time that I was stupid? So I often joke that, can you know your stupidity right in that moment when you are grieving or you are lamenting? If you know you are stupid right in this moment, you know the stupidity of your emotions and you purely see them a physiological happening. You say, oh, this emotion, oh, it's very interesting and it's so physiological. And you separate yourself from that nonsense. You may have done it sometimes. When this all the stupidity takes over, but there is in one moment your intellect, pure intellect comes into the action, and what is this? And you realize it. What the hell am I doing here? What the hell am I thinking about? This is nonsense, completely useless, worthless. And I am adding this extra value to this worthless matter. So this worthlessness that we, the extra value that we add to the worthless things, if we start to notice that, will make a lot of clarity into various things. Whenever there is some issue, am I unnecessarily imposing and being wise? Not real wise, but I'm pretending to be wise there. What do you call it? It's a kind of justifying it unnecessarily. And when we try to prove this point of view or this opinion or this judgment, and then we make a mess. And about these emotions, when we are looking into this, then Yoga Sutras are nothing but, the first part of the Yoga Sutra is to cultivate. Now it's interesting, huh? Cultivation of correct psychological attitudes. If we look at Bhagavad Gita and all the things that Krishna is talking here, it is like cultivation of correct attitudes by learning the facts of life and the laws of fundamental laws of nature. The moment you know the fundamental law, you cultivate this right attitude, and from there you see the things. There's so much clarity. So it's a very, we have in the whole yogic psychology, if we say it's psychology, then emphasis is given at first place to correct the psychological attitudes, rather than when something happens and then you start to organize, and it's waste of time. from the beginning have correct attitudes. By imbibing those fundamental truths, experiencing not only intellectual but living into the life. So this idea of samadhi, very beautiful word. Actually, yoga begins from samadhi itself, not from the asanas or pranayamas or something. The first thing that we look for in yoga is samadhi, means integrated state or balance of our mind. That mind is in an integrated state. That is samadhi. Use yoga samadhi. That yoga is samadhi. It starts from there, because we have a natural process, which is physiologically we call it homeostasis. Physiologically, if we see, vyadhi means disease, is your homeostasis has disturbed. If you have any disease, means your homeostasis of your internal functions has gone into a disorder. It's a beginning. And when the disorder continues, it becomes disease. So any disease is nothing but falling from samadhi. The moment we fall from integrated state of our body-mind complex, we have disease. So the whole idea of yoga is to get back to that integrated state of the body and mind complex. So physiologically what is happening and psychologically what is happening, finding that balance into it. So one of the major teachings of the yoga and Bhagavad Gita is emotional balance. Rather than completely guided by the emotions, by the force of the emotions. So if we want to get into a homeostatic state of our body and mind complex, then this balance of the body and mind is required, and this is where exactly yoga practice begins, which seems to be physical. So asanas practice also does the homeostasis in your body mind complex. Now you see how beautifully it is connected to the physiology. That when now all the symptoms of the stress are that all these, your breathing is disturbed, your body is shivering, your skin is burning, perspiring, and all that. And what do we do? Asana. To find that balance and stop that shaking, that tremor in the body. So in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it is Angamaja, the tremor of the body, the irregular breath. It is verse number 131. 131 in the Yoga Sutra. This is physiological implications of emotional disturbance. So again, even though when we say asana, but the asana is working towards samadhi. By working on the physiological body, and then we also see this wonder happens that by working with the asana practice itself, we are able to see this entire movement that is happening in the physiological body, and we are able to separate from it, and we can disassociate from it, and we get this clarity. Oh my God, that why I was allowing myself to float into the ocean of sorrow. The moment you start to do the asana, you get your standing into the mat, into the floor, you get the foundation, you start to correct everything in a reverse order. And again, it is also cultivating the right attitudes, using the body, using the breath, reaches to your that behavior where you are able to see it as a changing phenomenon that, oh my God, the emotions are playing with me. And you can see them right in the moment that this physiological disturbance begins. So you are no longer trapped by the emotions. You are no longer guided by the emotions, but you start guiding them. So all those symptoms of stress start to correct by the asana practice itself. And the conflict gets resolved. This is where Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, the result of the asana practice is that all the conflicts are dissolved. 247, maybe 248. So in this way, we can see that how these physiological changes that are happening, they can be corrected. So if we are overwhelmed by the emotions like Arjuna, if we are guided by the emotions like Arjuna, then all the teachings that Krishna is giving here, especially when it comes into the reference of Yoga Sutra, makes it much easier because here we get a more physiological approach to it. That's where I see that Yoga Sutras or the asana and pranayam practices are much more relatable for us because we live in this kind of understanding of body and mind thing. Whereas it may be good for the Arjuna that he's directly getting that teaching by saying, hey, why are you grieving? The one who is born is bound to die. And he says that all these verses related to the, now this is where I'm saying that if we have this teaching, this access or exposure to the young generation, then you see that verse number 13, just as the embodied soul experiences the different states of the body, like the childhood, adulthood, and old age, so will it acquire another body after death. Learned persons are never deluded about it. So that grieving, that so much fear, that sense of aloneness that my family members or friend or if we have loss, how to deal with that loss, deal with this higher understanding that if somebody is no more, then does not mean that he's no more, but he's no more in this physical body, but he's in a continuation of energy. And the further verses, especially the verse number 20, the soul has no birth and no death. It has no being and hence will never cease to be. Worthless, deathless, and without a beginning or an end. The soul is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. So much identification to the body that we have. So going back in remembrance to the facts like that, time to time, not only in this way, but when we are meditating and doing the asanas practice, then we have exposure to these experiences, what is written here. So that's where we are bridging, that when we are practicing asanas, we can start to see these things. Because in every asana, and I think if you see Deepak Chopra, and he has made it so easy that your cells die all the time and they are created new. So this ageless body, timeless mind, I think it's a revolutionary work that Deepak Chopra has brought forward to bring this clarity and see the life in this higher dimension. So if you like, it's difficult to directly impart it to the young generation or even to yourself sometimes, but simplified version of understanding this, if you read this Ageless Body, Timeless Mind, some concepts how Deepak Chopra will explain will make sense to this modern people. So I recommend that. I don't have much time to read on that and explain, but the source you can get it much easier. So in this sense, all these issues that arise, one of the beautiful verses very much repeated everywhere is this 222. The bodies are for the souls, just like the clothes are for us. Just as we sorry, just as we discard worn clothes, the soul discards worn out bodies and accepts new ones. Vasansi jinani yata vihar. Beautiful verse again, 2:11, and this one, 22. And having remembrance and connecting to this and seeing in reality, practicing asanas, pranayamas, and how our body is changing and how it is becoming new, and what is the way of decay and this law of energy in the quantum language, if you want to understand more from the scientific point of view. You have this clarity inside. And yes, from the childhood, when we are given, whenever there's a death, rather than avoiding the questions of a child, if we expose, even though you know he will not understand anything, she will not understand anything, but the seed will remain and it will work much deeper into the coming days, will be able to have the right fruits of the seed which is planted earlier when the right time comes. And then you are not left completely clueless and in the state of overwhelmed emotion. You don't know where to go and what to do about it. This is how these teachings are protecting us from getting any kind of psychological problems, issues. So basically, it is a prevention. What I'm exposing here through this class is that, of course, if you have already got some issue, then definitely go and visit psychotherapist is fine. But when it comes to prevention, then all the yogic teachings, particularly Yoga Sutras and Bhagavad Gita, they are seen more from a preventive point of view, that you don't have the damage when the life throws those challenges. Because when you are already in that state, these things may not enter. You are in a dejected state. You are not in a receptive mode at that moment. Yeah, whenever you are in a receptive mode, then it starts to get. The another verse which further makes sense is 227 and 8. It is saying, birth and death are unavoidable. It's a plain fact of life. Do not lament over them, because those who are born will certainly die. one day, and those who will die will be born again one day. So much hope after showing this truth. So, in the second chapter, this knowledge from the very transcendental point of view is given. Different than the psychological uh, counseling and all those psychological, psychotherapeutic therapy and all that, where you are dealing with this rotted mind. Here, you're completely renovating. And it's painful because all the property that you have acquired in the form of attachments and all the things, you don't want to let it go. That's why these teachings are difficult to digest for so many people until you reach to that threshold where everything is thrown out. Then these things can enter. So don't think that, oh, you are so inspired by this, and then I will go and teach my family or friends and I will tell them. They will tell you, mad person. Don't try this. Don't mess up unnecessarily. It will not enter into everyone until you have really hit your head 100 times to the wall and then nothing comes out of this except blood. Then you have some space and the right time comes, things can go. But in the young children, in a receptive mode, we can place, and these are exactly the filters I was talking. Whenever there is a loss, whenever there is a grieving state, whenever there is some big conflict where we feel the danger to the life, these filters will come up and prevent from much damage. Of course, emotions will have their part and they will make you cry, they will make you, but then somehow at the back of it, when you are done with it, you start to see the spark of light. That's where we prevent from psychological damage. That's how it is prevention than cure. I think that is all for today. Thank you very much.